Good afternoon. We begin 13 News at 4 with breaking news. Downtown Indy emergency crews have several streets closed right now for what they're calling a mass overdose.
So let's get straight out to Logan Gay, who just got to the scene. Logan, what are you seeing out there?
Well, everything is still under investigation, but IFD said that when medics responded, they said they found people all experiencing the same overdose-like symptoms. It actually happened right here across the street. You can see that there's still crime scene tape up. That corner is actually right across the street from the city-county building. Now, what we know, in all, 6 people were taken to the hospital, 5 of them critical. 4 needed breathing assistance. Here's what IFD spokeswoman says about this incident.
When they got here, they noticed several other people presenting the same symptoms as the patient they were called on, and they asked for more resources to respond. All of the patients were presenting what they believe to be symptoms similar to an overdose, but at this point, we're not really sure what the patients were dealing with.
Well, you just heard it from her. Like she said, because this is still so early in the investigation, they are still investigating whether this was an overdose, and if so, what kind of drugs were used. Once we get that information, we will update this story. Also, I would like to add that all roads surrounding this area are open. Felicia?
All right, thank you so much. Logan Gay reporting live from downtown, where it seems there has been an apparent overdose there.
We'll continue to follow it, bring you more as soon as we learn of it. Now to a shocking discovery in Greenwood, a Greenwood neighborhood, an alleged drug lab inside somebody's home.
And this afternoon, 4 people are in jail. Our Anna Chalker was there and shares what they found.
A neighbor tells me off camera several law enforcement agencies were here on Stone Road for around 7 hours overnight, focusing their investigation on this brown home behind me. On this quiet street in Greenwood, neighbors say not a lot happens here. But Thursday night, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office says they found a shocking discovery. During a search inside this home, deputies say they found illegal narcotics and a lab set up to make hallucinogenics, or LSD. What investigators also learned is that the home's address is linked to a nonprofit. 2 men and 2 women were arrested on several preliminary charges, including maintaining a common nuisance, possession of a controlled substance, and controlled substance dealing. The neighbor I spoke with says the ones arrested have lived in that home for years, but he hasn't seen them around for a while. And while he says he is surprised to see something like this happen in the neighborhood, he says he's thankful law enforcement stepped in. In Greenwood, Anna Chalker, 13 News.
And a Texas man will spend 5.5 years in prison for a deadly hit and run here in Indianapolis. Last March, Salvador Banales hit 3 people at the intersection of Mass Ave and North College Avenue. 2 days after the crash, 27-year-old Brandon James Breedlove died. Breedlove served in the U.S. Air Force. In court today, Banales pleaded guilty to 2 counts of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in serious injury or death to another person.
There's nothing I can say that'll make this right, but I do want you to know that I'm extremely remorseful. To all the families involved, everybody that was there, all the families hurt.
Under the plea agreement, Banales could have been sentenced between 12 and 21 years. We will have reaction to this shorter sentence ahead on 13 News at 5.
President Trump's push for tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada and China has been a major story this week. We've seen a lot of back and forth. Hours before his joint address to Congress on Tuesday, he enacted 25% tariffs on all goods from Mexico and Canada. 1 day later, he announced a short-term exemption for the auto industry. Then he delayed tariffs on more goods, those covered under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Take a listen here.
I wanted to help Mexico and Canada to a certain extent. We're a big country, and they do a lot of their business with us, whereas in our case, it's much less significant. We do very little with Canada by comparison. And I wanted to help the American car makers until April 2nd.
Today, President Trump is threatening new tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy products. Remember, this comes just 1 day after offering Canada a 1-month reprieve on many goods, as you just heard there. Now, earlier today, I talked with Congressman Andre Carson of Indianapolis about all this tariff whiplash. He told me he sees putting many of these tariffs off another month as a good sign.
That's a good sign that the pressure we are putting on this administration is working. President Trump, he tried tariffs in 2018. They didn't work. They raised prices for consumers. There's no reason for us to believe it will be different a second time around. And that's what will happen again. President Trump's tariffs will cost working families up to about $4,000 a year. And, we're raising the alarm with the president and his administration that these tariffs will devastate Americans already struggling with high prices. They're going to kill jobs. Plus, they will hurt our diplomatic relationships with some of our closest partners. Retaliatory tariffs from Canada in particular will hit Indiana hard. It'll hit the Midwest hard. So Democrats, we're going to keep stepping up and to be the party of reason and the party of good governance.
I'm reading a tweet from Representative Stutzman from Northern Indiana on Wednesday. He said Trump's tariffs are bringing jobs back to the crossroads of America. Mentioned reports that there's an increase in vehicle manufacturing. Do you think there is any sort of advantage, though, to this tariff strategy?
Well, I think we have to look at ways to lower costs and strengthen the middle class. Tariffs will only increase the price of goods that we get from our trade partners. I think President Trump's right in that he wants to incent American-based companies, particularly auto manufacturers, to build products in the U.S. because it will grow the economy. Anything outside of that, I think, is damaging to our global relationships.
We should also mention we invited our other senators and U.S. representatives to respond, to talk to us about this. So far, Congressman Carson is the only one to accept our invitation. Of course, we'll hear from the others as soon as they get back to us.
Also happening now, coordinated protests are going on across the country, calling on lawmakers to defend science.
In Washington, D.C., members of the grassroots movement Stand Up for Science are pushing back against President Trump's attempt to slash funding for medical research. Watch.
Politics is not more important than our lives. And DEI is not the damn problem.
That protest in D.C. is one of more than 170 rallies across the country, including one right here in Indianapolis.
And Alex Almanza went to the State House today where the group behind Stand Up for Science was protesting. And Alex, can you share what message people in medical and science industries are trying to send to state lawmakers?
Yeah, well, their message is that science is under attack, and they say somehow everyone will pay the price and be affected by President Trump's cuts. Now, we know a federal judge blocked some of these cuts to organizations like the National Institutes of Health, which is the largest source of funding for medical research in the world. One focus here at the Indiana State House is Governor Braun's decision to replace DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and he's replacing that with MEI, Merit, Excellence, and Innovation. Health experts like Gabriel Bosslet, who's a clinical physician, says keeping a diverse scientific workforce is integral to progress.
And we've had meetings in the last 40 days that have been like no other that I've ever had. If things continue the way they are, a lot of people with these funding changes are going to lose their jobs at universities and science-related, places around the country that are supported by the NIH. And this is a big deal for all of us.
Now, Republican lawmakers say the state's MEI initiative restores merit. Now, people in the science community criticize that MEI initiative for not being inclusive.
And then how are experts tying DEI initiatives into their push to save scientific progress?
Right. Well, they're really saying bringing a diverse workforce of scientists. When we think about research, part of it is including a large group of scientists, not just one. It's multiple people with a lot of different research ideas. It really is a group initiative.
And when experts say that science is, quote, under attack, what do they say are specifically the biggest threats to science funding right now?
Yeah, well, organizations like the NIH are funding universities like Purdue, which are big powerhouses for scientific research. So scientists are worried that pulling that funding will reduce some of that research, and it just affects everybody, is what they're saying.
All right.
Okay, there are a lot of changes and a lot of things happening right now, so we will continue to follow it. I know you'll stay on top of it.
All right, thank you.
Rob, what's the weather looking like this Friday afternoon?
Well, you know, as far as our forecast goes, it's certainly an optimistic one when you look down the road. But in the short term, it's still a bit on the gloomy side and on the chilly side. 44 currently. But if you look to the west, there's a bubble of some warmer air that may bump our temperatures up briefly, but it's not going to have a major impact on our forecast, at least when it comes to looking down the road. We do still have some snow showers in the northern part of the state, maybe mixed with a little bit of rain. There's some indication that we will likely see some showers through this evening. Are they going to be as impressive as maybe what some of the models are kicking out? I don't know that I see that just yet, but we'll leave the chance for some showers in our forecast through this evening. Temperatures dropping back down into the 30s or upper 20s. I think 29 is a nice number to put on the board here. Any rain showers will be wrapping up, and then looking ahead to tomorrow, temperatures getting back into the 40s, but the big difference here, we move those clouds out and the sunshine should be plentiful, and it's going to kick off a string of sunny spring-like days. I'm going to talk more about the warming temperatures getting close to 70 by the middle of the week. Let's talk traffic briefly. What I like about the traffic today is that the traffic is light. We are looking at Friday light for sure. Traffic map is looking okay. Kind of starting to see the slowdowns in the usual locations, and I'll keep my eye on those, of course. But as we look at some of the traffic cameras, looking pretty good there at I-74, US 421. This is the typical background that we look at when we are looking at seeing how things are starting to pick up in the afternoon. This is Interstate 65 approaching the North Split. Traffic is backing up, but this is what you would expect for just after 4 o'clock on a Friday.